So I've been rewatching The Interview with the Vampire season 1 because I've been watching The Vampire Lestat as it comes on, right? Because it's so good. And I have read the Vampire Chronicles books by Anne Rice for years. I've been reading her books. I love the series so much. So I went ahead and started watching the show. So I really like Interview with the Vampire, and I love The Vampire Lestat. And honestly, I hope they keep making more after The Vampire Lestat, like some of the other books from the series, like The Vampire Armand. Um, so one thing. So Armand, like, I'm glad in the last episode they finally get a little more of Armand's backstory, because if you read the books, especially the Vampire Armand, it tells you more of Armand's backstory, which is a lot more tragic, really, than the TV show portrays. So, and there's also some differences too between the book and the show, with Armand's story in particular. So, in Armand's story in the show, he was part of a poor family in India, and his parents, because he was beautiful, his parents sold him, um, to feed their other children, and because they just had such a big family. So, and then he ended up being sold. He was sold to a brothel, and that's when he was bought by his maker in the TV series, which was Marius. So in the book, it's a little different. Um, in the book, he's actually from Russia. He was not. So in the TV show, he's 12 when this happens. But in the book, he's a little bit older, probably around 14, 15. He ends up being captured by Turkish slavers. And they capture him, they put him on a boat, like on a slave ship, and take him over to Italy, where they sell him to a brothel. And then, of course, he's purchased by Marius from there. And then he's about 17 when turned. So, and also a little bit more on Armand's backstory, because I don't know if they're going to get to that in the show or not. And some of you that have not read the book but watched the show might be a bit more curious about Armand. And maybe you don't want to read the book. I don't know. But so Armand ends up one of many boys who Marius ends up running a school for. He teaches them to paint. Now, in the book, Armand already had a talent for painting. So far, they have not showed that at all in the show or even mentioned it. But Marius was a painter. And so he teaches a bunch of boys to paint. And eventually, like, he does fall in love with Armand, basically. And Armand ends up begging him to turn him. So he was not turned against his will, like some vampires are. He was not coerced into it like Louis was, because of course, like Lestat was forced. Like, he was just turned against his will. Louis was coerced, but Armand begged to be turned. He was about 17 when he was turned. That's why he looks as young as he does. And at one point, after he's turned, they are attacked in Italy. Like, the entire house is burned to the ground. Marius he thinks is dead, and this is all done by the Paris Coven, by the Parisian Coven. They do it specifically to kidnap Armand. They kidnapped him. They take him on a ship from Italy to France, and they want him to be their new coven leader because their coven leader died, and because he has Marius's blood, which is a very good bloodline, they think that he should be their next coven leader. They need someone with like really good, like special blood, like he has. The blood of an ancient one, which Marius is. They didn't want Marius, of course, because I don't know, I can't remember if he turned them down before or what, but he was too set in his ways, too rigid, too old, too old. So they didn't want him. That's why they set fire to the house, trying to kill him. And they actually, because you might have noticed in the show, Armand continually keeps saying that Marius is dead, and then of course we find out, no, Marius is not dead. And at one point we think, oh, Armand is lying, which they may come up with for the show. But in the books, Armand genuinely thought Marius was dead, because that is what they told him. The Paris Coven told him that Marius was dead, burned alive in the house, burned to ash. You would never see him again. So here's this 17-year-old, not been turned too long. Now his maker, he thinks, is who he's hopelessly in love with and has been for years, he thinks dead. He thinks he's completely alone. So, and he's being kidnapped by the people who killed the person that he loved. And he ends up imprisoned by the Paris Coven, actually, which is one reason I think that he did end up feeding Louis when he was starving in the wall. When he was being punished by the Parisian Coven, because Armand knows how that feels like. Because since he refused to be their coven leader, they tortured Armand for over 30 years. They tortured him. I can't remember if it was like 60 years, but I know it was at least 30. They tortured him. Like they starved him. They actually drank blood from him, and then they starved him too. So they took blood but didn't even replenish it. And honestly, I'm surprised he survived it. I think after like multiple times, they would feed him a little just to keep him alive. And they raped him constantly. Like, and in the book, I think he mentions they did this every single night for 30 years. And because he refused to give in to be their coven master. But eventually he did, because of all this. I mean, so I think we should have some sympathy for Armand. And, I think it's honestly one reason he's so, like, rigid, too, about the laws and everything. So, anyways, but, so I actually was, like I said, rewatching the first episode of Interview with the Vampire season 1. And we got to this scene where Louis was with Lestat for the first time with that human woman, Lily. And it just made me think, like, yeah, Lestat doesn't mind a menage a trois. It is a French name for a reason. Bye, guys.